Somewhere around 2009, I had the privilege of meeting this brother who is coming to the stage. He, by far, is one of the most prolific voices in our country. And he thought it not robbery to come to the campus of Livingstone College today as we celebrate this Get Out the Vote moment, this Get Out the Vote movement, and as we mobilize people to the polls. So much is at stake. I can read you his whole resume, but you don't need to know that. Know that he is a child of God, and he's coming here with a message. I remember several years ago, he told us that it was time for a code. Well, guess what? It's still time for a code. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for my friend, my big brother in the social justice movement, Reverend Dr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's give it up. All over the country, college students are uniting. Just yesterday, we were at Fayetteville State, and yesterday at North Carolina Central University, and over 1,000 students went to the polls all over the country. I want to get quickly at a matter. I want to tell you who you are. Not that you don't know it, but I want to reinforce it because you may not hear this in the media. But you need to know that in 2020, in North Carolina, the election was determined by 74,000 votes. That's all. 740 votes per county, Mr. President. What you need to know is that determined who was the president of this country. That did to 74,000 votes. You need to know that in North Carolina in that same period, there were over 50,000 students on HBCU campuses that were eligible to vote. You need to know that poor and low wealth people, and what I mean by that is people who make $50,000 and less in a family of four. That's considered poor and low wealth because we've not raised the minimum wage in this country since 2009. How many students know you can't live off $7.25? You can't survive off $7.25. But that's what the minimum wage is. And Dr. King wanted it to be raised to 75 cents to $2 in 1963 and indexed with inflation. And if we had listened to Dr. King, Dr. Davis, the minimum wage would be $18 today. $18 today. A few years back, we had a chance to raise it to $15 in the union, and 8 Democrats and all the Republicans in Congress voted against 55 million people, including students, who don't make a living wage. But in this state, over 1 million poor and low wealth voters did not vote. But the election was determined by 74,000 votes. In Wisconsin, the presidential election was determined by 20,000 votes, and 1 million people who are poor and low wealth didn't vote. In Pennsylvania, the election was determined by 40,000 votes, and 1.3 million voters did not vote. In the year, and this is nonpartisan, this is just history, in the year that Donald Trump won the presidency, he won by 80-some thousand votes in 3 states, but in those same 3 states, over 5 million people didn't vote. It's one thing to talk about what people are doing to you. It's another thing not to use the power that you have to decide who gets to do whatever. Right now in North Carolina, there are 40,000 students. All the students say 40,000. 40,000. North Carolina has the largest number of historically black colleges and universities in the country, in the world. Yes. Went Salem State, Livingstone, Elizabeth City, Johnson C. Smith, St. Aug, Shaw, Elizabeth City, Barber, Scotia used to be. Pembroke, because that's Native American. North Carolina Central, A&T State. There's no state in the country that has more HBCUs than we do. And right now, there are over 40,000 students that are eligible to vote because the law says you can vote where you spend the most of your time in the year. And if you're a resident staying on campus or got an apartment, you are here more than you're back home. Am I right about it? Yeah. Yeah. And the law allows you to register to vote. Yeah. The law. So that's 40,000. The election only turned by 70. President Obama in 2008, President Davis, only won by 14,000 votes. Wow. 140 votes per county. 14,000 votes. Last election, 74,000 votes determined the presidency. But we've got all this power. Somebody says all this power. All this power. And God doesn't give you power to put it under a bushel. God doesn't give you power not to use it. There's no need to say the light is not on if you didn't plug in the socket. Somebody talk to me. And if you add to this your counterparts at UNC and Wake Forest and Duke and other places, because you have counterparts. That's why Winston-Salem State and Livingstone are here today. Y'all might battle on the football field, but you better be together at the voting block. See, the football field is a game, but this political stuff ain't no game. Because who you elect is going to determine whether you have a living wage. Who you elect is going to determine whether you have health care. Who you elect is going to determine the money that comes to HBCUs. Who you elect is going to determine whether you're in war or not in war. Who you elect is going to determine your voting rights. Who you elect is going to determine how your little brothers and sisters back home, the kind of preschool they have and the kindergarten that they have. Who you elect is going to determine if a woman has the right to her body, or who you elect is going to determine if people can discriminate against you based on your sexuality. Who you elect will determine all of those things because they are policy. And if you work 40 hours a week at $7.25 or anything less than $15, $16 an hour, and you're poor, you're not poor or low wage because it's your fault. You're poor or low wage because the politicians have not put in policy a living wage. Somebody shout power. Power. Somebody shout power. Power. Now you need to know on June 25th, and I'm almost through 2013, because we won, your president was right there. I want you to know that. He was right. He went to jail around this stuff. I did too, 17 times in my lifetime, fighting, standing up, going to court, because we fought to get same-day registration early vote. That means you can go to the polls right here in Salisbury and vote on the same day and register the same day. You don't have to be registered before you go. And take your Livingstone ID or your Winston-Salem State ID, and that's all you need. And it used to not need that, but they're trying to suppress the vote. That's another matter. But after June 25th, 2013, the extremists in this state went after all these voting laws because they're afraid of you. Students and poor and low-wage folk are the largest voting bloc in this country. The greedy in this country are afraid of black and white and brown and Asian and native young folk and poor folk coming together, because if we bring all our votes together, we can determine the economic architecture of this nation. It would only take 6.3% of all of the people who didn't vote in the last election to outdistance the margin of victory in the last election. Somebody shout 6%. Not 10%, not 20%, not 30%, just 6%. 39% of all the workers in this state make less than $15 an hour. 41% of this state is poor and low wages. But God fixes it sometimes, that the stone that the builder rejects can be the cornerstone of a new reality. Look at somebody and say, we are who we've been looking for. And it's our time now. And so, 3 things you need to know. Extremists don't want you to vote. They want you to buy some hair. I ain't got nothing wrong with that. It's yours if you buy it. They want you to buy some fake jewelry. They want you to do everything but vote. If voting wasn't important, you would not have had 1,000 voter suppression laws attempted in the last 2 years. Say 1,000. Number 2, the issues you care about can be determined by your power. You don't have to keep taking this. Don't keep saying, well, folk are doing this, folk are doing it. If you're concerned about people getting prosecuted who wrongfully kill black people, when they're police, guess what? Police chiefs are put in office by people who get elected. DAs are elected. State legislatures are elected. So if you want to stop it, you got to change who gets elected. And then finally, number 3. And I want to say this at Livingstone because I want even WSSU students to understand this. Long before there was state colleges like A&T and Central, a man came to Livingstone named J.W. Hood. Say J.W. Hood. He was an AME Zion bishop. And J.W. Hood went to the Constitutional Convention in 1865 after the Civil War was over. He was the only black person in the room. Everybody else was white. He was the only black person in the room. Now, everybody else wasn't racist because at this time there were white and black people coming together. They called themselves fusionists. And they came together to rewrite the Constitution. J.W. Hood got together with a white minister named Ashley from Ohio. And J.W. Hood did a speech in 1865. Listen what he said. Listen what your president said, Livingstone. And in some ways, J.W. Hood is the president of HBCUs in this state. He said, today we come here. And today we demand 3 rights for which we will never accept not having. The right to sit in a jury box. The right to sit in a witness box. And the right to put a ballot in a ballot box. J.W. Hood said that in 1865. They threatened to kill him, but he said it anyway. He was by himself, but he said it anyway. He didn't have a car to drive in. He rode on a horse, but he said it anyway. And I stopped by to tell you, we ought not let J.W. Hood have more courage than we have. Because back then, they didn't have what we have. They didn't have TikTok. They didn't have email. They didn't have FaceTime. They didn't have college degrees. They didn't have fraternities and sororities. They didn't have watches that could tell the time, tell your blood pressure and your heartbeat all at the same time. All they had was faith. All they had is courage. All they had was trust. And they did more with less. Say more with less. And Harriet Tubman, she got 700 people out of slavery. Somebody say 700 people. And she didn't have TikTok. She didn't have email. She didn't have Gmail. She didn't have FaceTime. She didn't have AI or IA or whatever it is. She didn't have any of that. She didn't have a little box you can carry around with all your music put on. What's that called? An iPod. She didn't have an iPod. But she had moss on the north side of the tree. She had a star in the north at night. And she had a made-up mind. She did more with less. With less, they beat the KKK. I wish I had a witness here. With less, they beat racism. With less, they beat suppression. With less, they beat slavery. With less, they beat the things that tried to hold them down. And I stopped by to tell you there ain't no way, Livingstone, and there's no way, Winston-Salem State, that we can do more they could do more with less, and we not do more with more. Today, we got each other. Today, we got all our education. Today, we got all these computers. Today, we can go down to the ballot box, and all we got to do is walk down there today with our ID, even if we aren't registered before we get there, and say, I'm here and I ain't going nowhere. I got to vote, and I mean for it to be counted. My vote is my voice. My voice is my vote. I'm not going to let my foreparents do more with less, and I not do more with more. I wish I had a somebody slap somebody a high five and say, it's time for us to rise. Say, we are the swing vote, and you ain't got a thing without that swing. Say, we are the swing vote, and it's time for our votes to be heard. It's time for our votes to be felt. It's time for our votes to make a difference. We don't care who the president is. We got the power to send you home or to keep you in office. We are the swing vote. Swing Winston-Salem State. Swing Livingstone. Swing HBCUs. It's time. It's time. It's past time. Vote. Vote like never before. Vote until the ancestors shout. Vote until heaven cries. Vote until the news has to report it. We don't know what happened, but somebody showed up. We didn't count them, but they counted themselves. And when the smoke clears, it will be said that this day, this year, students and working folk got together and made a difference. Tomorrow is the anniversary, Dr. Davis, of the day when 7 people were found guilty of killing 3 college students who went down to Mississippi in 1964-65. Swanner, Cheney, and Goodman. Cheney wanted to go to college. He was black. Swanner and Goodman came from the north and went down there, and they killed him. And they got off. But 3 years later, the federal court found them guilty. Tomorrow, those 3 men, boys, just like you, they were your age. They died. They never got to vote. Why don't we resurrect them with our vote and vote like never before? Come on, let's do it. Now, I come from a HBCU too. And there ain't nothing, if you got to come to HBCU, the band got to kick one time. Band got to kick one time. Can y'all kick one more time? Can the band just kick one more time? I got some arthritis, but I might get to moving if you just kick one more time. Come on, let's vote.
There's plenty of food under the tent. Thank you for coming. There is plenty of food under the tent. Don't forget to vote. Your vote is your vote. Peace and blessings.